you're coming up with your own words that perfectly reflect the way things really are in the world, and you've got yourself a philosophical language. Different philosophical languages from different times often reflect the values of the people and cultures that made them. During the Enlightenment era in Europe, there was a little bit of a philosophical language fad. In the era when everyone was talking about the supremacy of human reason, it makes sense to think that we should be able to design our own better languages. One of the most popular was created by John Wilkins, who did his best to take everything in the universe that can be talked about and categorize all of it into one giant hierarchy, and then the sounds for the word for that thing would be determined based on its place in that hierarchy. So an alphabetically organized dictionary for this language would feel like it's sorted according to something like the Dewey Decimal System, with the first sound in a word telling you generally what kind of word it is, and then the next sound getting more specific, and so on. Now, Wilkins put an enormous amount of effort into making the words in his language have reasons for sounding the way they do, but he barely put any effort at all into the grammar of his language. In that respect, morphosyntactically, it was basically just English with a bit of Latin thrown in, but the most popular philosophical language today takes the exact opposite approach. There's an idea in linguistics that I really haven't talked about enough, called the Whorfian hypothesis. It proposes basically that language affects the way we think. There are different versions of the hypothesis that try to narrow down and get really specific about exactly how language influences our thought, but that's the gist of it. Different languages encourage people to think in different ways. In 1960, a man named James Cook Brown proposed a possible test for this hypothesis. If we design a language to be extremely different from all natural languages and try to make it as logical as possible, and then we get a bunch of people to learn it, what would happen to them? Would their behavior and non-language related tasks change? Well, to find out, he created such a language, Loglon. A lot of people really liked this idea of a logic-based language. It never became nearly as popular as Esperanto, but to this day there's a decent community around it. Well, sort of. See, the Loglon community wound up getting into a bit of a similar conflict as